do walk for Africa. Walk extremely fast.
I would like to call the Monday, October 25th, 2021 Common Council meeting to order. Clerk Jones, I believe that you would like to make some statements regarding the length of this meeting and other expectations.
Yes. Good evening, members of the public. For audio quality, we will be muting everyone not speaking by default to maintain good audio quality for the council as well as yourselves. For virtual audience, if you would like to speak during the meeting on a specific agenda item, please submit your request in the chat, and you will find the directions to do so in the chat. We ask that you provide your full name and address, as those are required for all speakers at in-person council meetings. If you would like to be called on during the meeting to provide public input, please insert the following to the chat, and you will be called on during the relevant time. Put your full name, your address, and the agenda item that you would like to speak on, whether for or against. You will then be given 5 minutes to speak. Please be sure to unmute yourself prior to giving your remarks. If you would like to speak at privilege of the floor, it would be necessary for, again, you to put your name and your address, and the council president will call on you at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to read this statement for the record. Disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated. Such speech and/or actions, as well as verbal attack on any person, may result in the individual who's speaking losing their time. And again, we want to make sure that all the comments and our interactions, that they're dealt with a level of respect as well as dignity as well. At this time, our invocation will be given by Aman Mohammed, if he's present, or is he joining us virtually?
I'm looking for him. I don't see him virtually.
Okay. If he's not present, it appears that he's not, I would like to ask Councilmember Kenneth Lee, 1st District Representative, to share the invocation with us at this time.
Bow your heads. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we ask today, as we prepare to do the business of the city, I pray, God, right now that you would allow us to work together in unity. We know, God, that a house divided cannot stand, and a city divided cannot stand, and a council divided cannot stand. So we invoke your presence in tonight's hearings and proceedings, and that you will help us make decisions that will make our city better. We pray, God, that you will help us to work together, work in unity, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken, and allow us to be able to see from different viewpoints so that we can help push the city of South Bend to a higher level. We even pray for those who have been victims of gun violence in our city, and we pray, God, that you allow peace to flow throughout our cities like a river. And we ask today, God, that you would just be with us and that you would touch everyone, those that are going through issues personally, those that are going through issues and problems. We ask that you would help us to be able to turn to you and look to you. And these things we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Davis.
Henry's here.
Councilmember Lee.
Present.
Councilmember Warner.
Here.
Councilmember Wax.
Present.
Councilmember Niskoski.
Present.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Present.
Councilmember Hammond.
Present.
Vice President McBride.
Present.
President White,
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Well, now, will you please read the report from the Subcommittee on Minutes for the September 27th meeting?
Yes. Report of Subcommittee on Minutes. To the Common Council, the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the September 27, 2021 meeting and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Entertain a motion to accept the Subcommittee on Minutes for the September 27th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, it has been seconded. I don't believe we have to do roll call for this motion. And all council members who are in favor of the motion might hear your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. There is no special business at this time, nor do we have any reports from the city offices. Would entertain a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. All council members who are in favor of the motion might hear your vote.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council's meeting where bills are given a second reading and public hearing. I wish to share with you that the bills that will be given a second reading and public hearing have been given a first reading and set for committee meeting and public hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, you will hear from the chairperson of the committee where the bill was discussed and the results of their discussion. If the proposed ordinance is a zoning ordinance, a report from a staff member will be given. In all other situations, the formal presentation on the proposed ordinance will immediately follow the committee report. The formal presentation shall be untimed. So we're going to move for the first bill, which is a second substitute bill 121-21. Clerk Jones, will you please read the bill?
Yes. Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of executive departments of the City of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2022.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Chair. Bill 121-21 was heard in Personnel and Finance Committee 2 weeks ago and came out of the committee with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Hi, yes, thank you. Council members, Dan Parker, City Controller. My office is on the 12th floor of this building. I do want to say that the city did file a request with the clerk's office to withdraw the second substitute and revert back to the first substitute. And so I will ask Attorney Palmer if there's action that needs to be taken on that front.
The effect is that the first substitute is again being substituted, so the council would have to accept the first substitute as the effective bill under consideration. There would be a need to be a motion and a vote by the council.
So I'd like to make a motion to hear the first substitute bill.
Second.
There's been a motion and it's been seconded. So Clerk Jones, can you please read the first substitute bill?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council.
Excuse me, I think we need to have a roll call vote
Oh,
on the motion.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
President White?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Okay, now,
The first substitute is the effective bill being discussed and open for hearing.
okay.
I'm ready? All right. So thank you again, council members, for the hearing this evening. I do have just a short presentation that I'll go through, but we've talked about this at a number of different meetings, and so happy to answer any questions for sure that come up. So one thing that I did want to just start off with is to kind of clarify what this bill is. So this is the non-bargaining salary ordinance. The salary ordinance and the budget work together. They are intertwined. The salary ordinance fixes the salaries based on position title. So essentially the question that this bill answers is how much should a particular position get paid if the city were to hire that position? It does not mandate that the city hire any of these positions. It doesn't tell how many of these positions are going to exist in the city. That is the function of the budget. So the budget is what allows the city to actually hire the various positions as listed in the salary ordinance, and is informed by the salary ordinance in that the amounts that are listed in the salary ordinance are what inform how much is put in the budget for each of the various departments, and that's what we've been presenting over the past few months. So I did want to just clarify that these ordinances work in tandem, and so the decisions that are made for one ordinance affect the other ordinance. So if decisions are made on the salary ordinance to amend it or change it, that does have a necessary impact on the budget because they do work in tandem. And the budget, as council members know, was passed 2 weeks ago. So I did want to just make that note. That being said, we had talked about through a variety of different meetings all of the different changes that were in both the salary ordinance in terms of new titles and positions being changed, as well as in the budget, because a lot of these, especially new positions, may not need a salary ordinance change. They may already be in the salary ordinance, and the budget just simply allows us to hire more people into that role, or to change which roles are being hired in a particular department, or what have you. So these changes that we have talked about over the past several months are really both salary ordinance changes and budget changes. I know that there has been a lot of conversation, both at the hearing 2 weeks ago and previous to that, about the positions that are receiving a raise that is not equal to, and that should say 2.5%. This was updated, so a position raise that is not equal to 2.5%, which is the standard raise for non-bargaining. So it just want to put a summary in there. So there were 34 positions that were listed on the original proposal for positions that were getting something different than the standard 2.5%. The 34 positions, just as a baseline, that represents less than 8% of non-bargaining employees in the city. So it's not as though this is a huge number relative to the total number of non-bargaining employees that we have, but 34 is the number. Of those 34 positions, 8 actually don't require any change in the salary ordinance itself. So this is where I was talking about how the salary ordinance and the budget work together. This is moving employees from one title in the salary ordinance to another title in the salary ordinance. Both titles already exist in the salary ordinance, and so it's not as though any amendment needs to be made to any of those specific titles. It's just changing which titles are being utilized. And so that's 8 of the 34 positions. 11 more of the 34 positions are related to reorganization in my department in administration and finance, and I know we've talked about this probably 4 or 5 times at this point. But that reorganization eliminated 2 positions, and in order to save the city money overall, we wanted to be fiscally responsible and eliminate 2 positions, as well as creating a more equitable hierarchy, positions that would be easier to recruit and retain, and that is why those positions are receiving a raise above the standard 2.5%. We are managing the same amount of work with 2 fewer positions, and so everybody's going to have to take a little bit more, and so everybody's responsibility is increasing a little bit, and that was the proposal there. This is a great example of how these 2 ordinances work together. It's hard to say, yes, we're going to reduce the 2 positions, but we're not going to provide the increases to account for the fact that everybody who's left is going to have to take on a little bit more work. So these ordinances do just work together in that fashion. 7 of the positions, of the 34 positions, are related to a reorganization in DCI, which I know we've talked about a number of times as well. Those positions have the following goals. In general, we want to create an organizational structure in DCI. So these are things like switching the director of planning and the building commissioner's salary caps to try and create the right organizational hierarchy and reporting that we want to see in that department. eliminating the part-time historic preservation position and then adding that responsibility that was previously filled by the part-time role to the current historic preservation administrator position, and then providing some additional compensation to account for that additional responsibility, just creating the organizational structure that we believe is appropriate in that department. Another goal of those of that reorganization is aligning positions with strategic priorities. So we talked about how there's a lot of money coming into the city and a lot of programming that we want to make sure is available to our community. So that's things like moving current positions into housing and neighborhood-focused positions and changing some of the titles within those current positions. Again, we're trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can and not just always add positions when we can repurpose positions that already exist and change. We like to do that, and that's one of the goals we have here. And then ensuring equity. And so you'll see this as a pretty consistent theme. We've talked about how, especially at the department head level, there is a goal that we have to ensure equity across the city and make sure that we are compensating people commensurate with the level of responsibilities that they have. So that really leaves 8 positions that are outside of those ones that we've already talked about. And the remaining 8 positions focus on some of the same things that are going on in DCI. So it's accounting for revised or expanded responsibilities. So some of the examples from Public Works, these are really just jobs that are significantly changing from the current job. And so the salary is changing in a commensurate way. And again, ensuring equity. So for example, the Director of Facilities and Grounds is scheduled to receive a raise, or is proposed to receive a raise above the 2.5%. That position leads a large department, a very important department, and is compensated significantly below where other directors that lead similar types of departments, similar types of divisions are compensated within the city. And so we want to make sure that we're ensuring that equity. And then addressing inability to compete in the labor market, and we've talked about this from the INT perspective a number of times, that we're never going to be able to compete with private firms. That's never the goal, especially in innovation and technology, but we don't want to fall too far behind either. And so we single out and target specific positions that we recognize that are in high demand in the community, and we want to make sure that we're able to compete, attract, and retain individuals into those positions. And then lastly, something that's gotten a lot of conversation is achieving the desired citywide minimum wage. And so that is the position of custodian, which is getting an increase that's greater than 2.5% in order to get to the desired full-time minimum wage of about $15.40 an hour, or $32,000 annually. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council members have on any of these items, any of the other items in the salary ordinance. But I did want to, again, go through the reasons why the administration is proposing these specific targeted raises as opposed to any other proposal that we have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parker, for your presentation. Council members, do you have any questions of the petitioner? Councilwoman Lori Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Are you adding any new positions to the finance department?
The salary ordinance calls for, the budget calls for one additional position in the finance department, yes.
That did not previously exist and is not part of the restructuring?
It's part of the restructure. It did not previously exist, though. No, you're right. So it's a net decrease of 1. You're correct.
Secondly, regarding DCI, there have been multiple requests for some type of metrics to measure success and I guess you would say community satisfaction with this department, and we have still not received anything that would operate as a metric. We've asked for the survey so that perhaps the feedback from the employees would give us some insight into how this department is operating. We still have no survey. Got anything?
I believe that the Department of Community Investment did come and present metrics on housing specifically. There's metrics on other areas as well. I believe Mr. Garces is on. He can speak to that. But before I turn it over to him, specifically on the survey, I think we've talked about that a number of times. We are working on it. We want to do it. It takes a long time to put together. And we want to make sure we do it correctly. We don't want to rush it to just fit within an arbitrary timeline. So we are going to do that, and when we do it, we will share those results with council members. But it is not done as of right now.
Thank you.
And then I will ask if Mr. Garces wants to answer any additional questions on metrics.
Sure. Hello, Council. This is Santi Garces. I am the Executive Director of the Department of Community Investment with offices in the 14th floor of the City County building. Again, we presented a number of times on different items that the department does. And I think that when we think about the work that the department does, we can think about some broader metrics where the department has some influence, but are obviously have ultimately other factors that are extraneous to the city. The city, whatever action it takes does not unilaterally control outcomes in the community. But we talked about the changes in the past decade in the median household income from $35,000 to over $44,000 between 2013 and 2019. We talked about the increase in population in the city, and actually when we go and compare to similar cities of our size in across the Midwest, we're one of only 3 cities that kind of have a similar demographic profile that have experienced growth over the past decade. And then we, besides the outcomes, we also look at the outputs, the work that we do. And again, I know that the council has been asking us to be much more rigorous and careful about how we extend tax abatements and other incentives. So like we've shared some of those data. We've shared again as part of the recovery and reaction to COVID, some data around the city's response. We received $7 million from the federal government to be able to support businesses in addressing impacts of COVID, and we're above the benchmark on the money lent. It included the first $50,000 loan to a small business in the West Side. We have also created and delivered funding, extraordinary funding for restaurants that were the most impacted by the COVID pandemic. So again, we continue to think about broadly the different elements of the actions that we take, the consequences of those actions, and then ultimately the impact that it has in the community. And we know that us as a department have a big task, and a lot of what we do exists within a broader macroeconomic context and a broader social context. And we continue to learn and listen to the community about what are the things that we're doing right and what are the things that we're not hitting the mark on.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
No,
Okay.
I understand what has been accomplished. Those are not necessarily measurements of efficiency and metrics of which is what we're looking for. But I do appreciate the programs that your department runs. Thank you.
Is there any other council members here that have a question? President White?
Yes, I just have a question, and I think that I'll save my comments when we come back around. As we begin to look at the number of positions that are being proposed, my concern has been, not only the number of positions, but also how do we phase these positions in, and what are the plans for these positions as we begin to look in terms of advancing the goals and objectives that the community has raised, but also the council members and the relationship with American Rescue Dollars.
Yes, and thank you for the question, President White. I think that especially as it relates to the American Rescue Plan dollars and the programs that were contained in the budget that was passed 2 weeks ago, a lot of that is related to the additional positions as well as the increases that we just talked about in DCI. And I know a few weeks ago, Santi went through a presentation that essentially connected each one of those proposed new positions to one of the proposed programs and sort of tried to connect the dots, as it were, these are the positions that are being proposed in order to implement the programs that are out there. We are proud of the fact that we have a relatively low overhead rate on the American Rescue Plan dollars. We calculated our additional overhead requirements is about 4% of the additional inflow of dollars. That's pretty efficient. But the bottom line is that we think that these programs are going to need additional staff in order to program and get the dollars out there into the community.
Did you have another question, President? I'll come back. Is there any other questions at this time, council members?
No question.
No? Okay. Councilman Davis?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the philosophy is we spend more money to correct a problem that a department could probably have corrected before? Because it just seems like that we're throwing more money at a problem and expecting it to be corrected. So when we're here next year, God willing, we're going to ask questions about metrics and if those things were taken care of. I vividly remember sitting here and Councilmember Lee asking a question about trees being cut back for street lighting, and that question not even being answered. And that is just a departmental thing that we shouldn't necessarily be asking for, because that should be a part of just the simple city services that are funded yearly. So we're adding more staff to get trees cut back. Or, excuse me, we're creating more new positions to get trees back, cut trees back. And my question is, again, is the philosophy you're just going to throw more money at a problem and hope that it gets corrected? Or do we have any level of insight that we know that these things are going to get fixed because we have additional staff that's getting paid way more than most?
So yes, thank you, Councilmember Davis. The philosophy is not just throw money at the problem and hope it fixes itself. So there are very targeted proposals around specific programs and the need to administer those programs. Regarding Councilmember Lee's question on cutting back trees, I'm sorry, I don't remember the question, but we do have a program where we cut back trees for streetlights as well as street signs. That's our Public Works Department working with our Department of Venues, Parks and Arts and the Forestry Division. If there are concerns about a specific area, those can be submitted to the 311 and it'll go to the board or to the Department of Public Works, and they'll work with VPA to get that done. So that does already happen. Also, the new positions are not specifically related to tree trimming. So that is not in the proposed new positions or position upgrades. That is a program that exists currently. But broader than that, the goal here is to really have a broad and detailed look at what programs the community wants to see, and then really look at what resources will be necessary to administer those programs. Yes, in a year, we need to make sure we're measuring, not just a year from now, but in the interim between now and a year from now, we need to make sure we're measuring, is what we're doing effective? If it's not effective, we need to change course, and we need to look at some new ideas and creative ideas, like the city is trying to do with the lead dollars that it has. There was just an article in the paper this morning of how anything we can do to try and get that money out of the community, we're trying to do. Those are the kinds of things that we need to keep doing and measuring how much of this money is being spent, how is it being spent, is it being spent effectively, and is that actually addressing the problems that community members have. That can be done anytime during the year, and we always want to come and talk to council, talk to committees about how those programs are going, how they're being administered, and what's going on in the community. But within the context of the budget, we first need to have the resources necessary to implement and administer them.
You stated that it was already being taken care of. question. When there are new positions or raises in some departments, such as IT, will those costs be passed on to other departments, perhaps through allocations?
Yes. So the IT department is one of our administrative departments is allocated out. The costs of that are allocated out to operational departments. That's in accordance with GFOA best standards. Best practices. We do that. It's the right accounting methodology. And so yes, the increased cost would be allocated out.
Thank you.
Is there any other, Councilwoman McBride?
Thank you. My question is, if you can, I don't know when the last time it was touched upon, the question I believe was asked of how many new positions were being asked or created using COVID funds and the sustainability of those funds after they are absorbed. How are these proposed positions going to be funded?
Yes, thank you, Vice President McBride. So there are 4 positions in the proposed salary ordinance that are proposed to be funded through ARP funds, 1 in the Department of Public Works and 3 in the Department of Community Investment. So the one in the Department of Public Works is an engineer position, and that position will work to help implement some of the really large-scale projects like the Dream Center and others that are a part of the ARP funds. And so just staffing up that division to try and make sure that we're able to actually implement these projects. That engineer will also help with a lot of the projects that are going to be coming underway in the water and sewer side. So it is partially funded, or it's partially going to be allocated to ARP funded, but will also, especially after ARP projects are completed, work on the water and wastewater side. And so that position, as well as the positions in DCI, are subject to the annual budgeting process, right? And what that process is evaluating what the city needs at any given point in time and then appropriating money accordingly. And so as those positions are not needed because programs are no longer funded through the ARP funds, then we can reassess whether those positions are still needed through the annual budget process. And if they are, because they can be repurposed for something else, that's great, and we can have that conversation. But if not, then we can reduce those positions and then through normal attrition generally find new positions for individuals within the city.
And what is the deadline for the use of the ARP funds again?
It is through the end of 2024.
Thank you. No other questions. Thank you.
Councilman Wax?
Thank you. I think you've been doing this for a few years, right?
Yes, sir.
Outside the financial, outside your department, when was the last time a department had a net decrease in employees?
I don't have the numbers offhand, but I can go back and look at them. Actually, I do believe last year, Venues, Parks, and Arts had a net decrease in employees. So that was probably the last time.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other council members that have a question at this time? If not, we are going to move to the public portion hearing. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of the first substitute bill 121-21? Okay.
I don't see anyone from the virtual public that is wishing to speak in favor of substitute bill 121-21, first
Okay.
substitute.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition of the first substitute bill 121-21? And if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Jason Badicki, 3822 Ford Street. So just to clarify one thing from Santi, he said average household income in South Bend was $44,000 and change in 2019. According to census.gov, it was actually $40,265. That a 10% overstatement is pretty significant, particularly when you consider that the national average household income is over $69,500. I don't understand the need to constantly exaggerate or misstate numbers that are very easily findable on Google. It is not that hard. And then to kind of expand on Councilman Wax's question, not only what departments lost people, but who were those people? Did we cut administrative people, or did we actually lose the people down on the street doing the jobs? I think that would be more useful information to find out. Because, yeah, VPA lost people, but they lost Teamsters members, not administrators drawing large salaries.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. I think you guys all know my passion is with the Teamsters and with the blue-collared worker. And to keep giving the administration more people at the top to dictate what the people at the bottom should do is ridiculous. Less focus on administration, more on the actual worker is what needs to be the focus. If you want to clean up the streets, you want to cut your trees, you want those stop signs invisible, you want those street lights open, you need more people down on the streets doing the actual labor and forget the administration, because I'm sorry, but you don't need 3 people sitting at a desk pushing papers to tell a man on the street how to cut a tree. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, do you see anyone online, Clerk
No,
Jones?
I don't see anyone online that's wishing to speak in opposition of this bill.
Thank you very much. At this point, the public hearing on the first substitute bill 121-21 is now closed. Council members, do you wish to make any statements regarding this bill? Councilwoman Hammond?
Yes, this morning I issued a press release regarding this bill. I just want to read a short piece from this because I think it's really important. Our nation is facing an epidemic of wage inequality. Economic injustice often means racial injustice. I believe the city has an opportunity as well as a responsibility to act as a leader in countering this problem. Unfortunately, I believe the current proposed salary budget does little to address this injustice. The administration continues to counter with the argument of their inability to pay higher wages to hourly workers while offering significant salary cap increases to select salaried employees and department heads. At the same time, other employees are only receiving a 2.5%.
Racial injustice. I believe the city.
Okay. At the same time, the other employees are only receiving a 2.5% increase. So I strongly urge my council colleagues to stand firm in their commitment to what is equitable and just. Workable solutions are possible if we're willing to do the hard work necessary. That's how compromises are done. If we hope to continue to run this city in an efficient manner, we must have workers willing to work for the wages we are offering. The private sector is offering massive signing bonuses as well as wages which are significantly above what the city is currently proposing. We are not going to be able to hire hourly workers at $15.40. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other council members wishing to make a statement? Councilman Wax?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I won't be voting in support of this ordinance, but I do want to be clear that I do support a increase of the 2.5% increase for employee salaries. Unfortunately, I do think that the city, in creating its budget, I think establishes the wrong priorities on where we need to focus those very valuable dollars. And as Dan mentioned, and as we know, the wage ordinance is the other part of the budget. They work hand in hand, they work in tandem. Just as I did not support the overall budget ordinance, I won't be supporting this. Should there be a proposal to increase the salaries for all employees by 2.5% without creating significant new positions or the extensive restructuring that is being proposed, I would be happy to support that, but I cannot support this ordinance as is.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other council members? Councilman Davis?
I couldn't have said it any better. I support what Mr. Eli Wax just stated. Can't say it any better.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman McBride?
Well, I know that I sent a request to have an amendment to remove the position and the cap the salaries at 5% and not fluctuating between 14% and 9%, or for employees who are not at the $32,000 minimum wage that is proposed, which I support that. Those were my two asks for people to ensure that they are being compensated with higher prices for all of the employees that's going around, for people to have livable wages. However, for those many positions being into a department as well without any real substantive descriptions of what's going to happen. We ask other people to provide information of specific budgetary or job duties, and we are not sure of what is really going to be done or asked for. We definitely, as a council, have had many meetings in the public of asking what did the neighbors want and what did the neighborhoods want and what is best for the neighborhoods, but to not have clarity of what those job duties are is very significant.
Okay, thank you. President White?
Yes, I would like to first begin my comments with that no one would overstate that this has been a very challenging time for not only the council members, the administration. We have been involved in two negotiations with Teamsters and with the firefighters. There's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding. When a council person asks a question, that does not mean that that particular person is not in support of the vision for the city. We have every right to ask a question and to get clarity. And somehow the culture has shifted where that is not viewed as being, quote, supportive of the administration. That's far from the course. I have always been very respectful as best as I can, but I do have a right to ask questions. I do have a right to dig in deeper because that's our jobs as elected officials. And because of that, it has really caused some major constraints at the council level, but also with council members being viewed, not again being supportive of the vision of the administration. I personally believe that we should be giving more to our employees, especially those that are really doing the work at the ground level. And just because a person asks a question and say, well, you know, I don't see it this way, that does not make that person or that council person, even any individuals coming to the council meetings, as if they, one, they should not ask that question, and two, that it's not a valid question. This is our city. We have been elected as council members to ensure that we articulate the needs of our citizens, and especially those who may not have a voice or those who may not even know the process. You know, I've been involved many of years, and I'm still asking questions. I'm still making mistakes at particular times, but that it should not be viewed from a negative perspective. I'm not saying that it is. But also I want to clarify for the record, comments in regards to asking about community investment, I can only speak for myself, Karen L. White. It was not directed towards the director, Santi, and it was not directed to treat him unfairly. And so again, those comments have been made, and they are very heartening as I begin to look at where we're at. And we have the opportunity with all of the additional dollars that we have to really bring about change for our community. But it's going to take us coming together, working. It's a give and take. And I'm not saying that we've not done that, but we're not at the point that we should be at as a council.
Thank you. Councilman Lee?
My comments is that I think that this has been probably one of the hardest processes that we've all gone through, and it is very important that as we look at opportunities for the individuals who do the work, that they be compensated fairly for it. I think that we have to consider the fact that these are very much historical times. We got an opportunity to make some positive changes. We got an opportunity to make a big impact in our city, and our city is looking for us to do what's right, and they're looking for us to have leadership, and they're looking for us to be able to help push South Bend forward. And so I just wanted to comment on the fact that it is very important that we work together, that we get out of our emotions and begin to look at the future for what's best for South Bend. And a lot of hurt things have happened during this process, and I hope moving forward we can find a way to bury whatever issues we have and move forward, because our city needs us right now, and we're all in this position to be able to make a difference for those who may not have a voice.
Thank you. Is there any other comments council members wish to make at this time? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion regarding the bill.
Make a motion to send Bill 121-21 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I second.
Okay, there's been a motion on the floor and it has been seconded. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Wax? Councilmember Nisgowsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Strictly to secure the hourly wage that has been negotiated, I will vote yes.
Vice President McBride?
Nay.
Councilmember Davis?
Nay.
Councilmember Lee?
Nay.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
President White?
Nay.
5 nays and 4 ayes.
Okay, the bill has failed.
No, it still has to go to the
Oh,
committee, the full third reading.
oh, I'm sorry. So it'll be sent to the full council with a what's?
Second
The
motion.
motion fails, right?
We need another motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we send
need a
this with
motion
no
fails.
recommendation.
I second.
Okay, there has been a motion to send us to the council with a no recommendation. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wax?
Nay.
Councilmember Nisgowsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Nay.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President McBride?
Nay.
Councilmember Davis?
Nay.
Councilmember Lee?
Nay.
Councilmember Warner?
Nay.
President White?
Nay.
7 nays and 2 ayes.
So the motion has failed. Okay. We are going to move on to the next bill, Bill number 123.
Excuse
Okay,
me,
wait a minute.
Chair. We still need to get this out of the committee of the
Oh,
whole, so there's
yeah.
one other option available.
Okay, what is the last option?
The last option is a motion to make an unfavorable recommendation to the council as a whole.
What was the last motion that was just made?
No
No
recommendation.
recommendation, and what is the recommendation for this?
The only option left is to send it to the full council with an unfavorable recommendation.
So moved. Yeah, there you go.
I have a point of order question, please. Attorney Palmer, should this fail, could you just explain to us what happens?
If the ordinance does not pass, it goes back to the current salaries and compensation packages from the current salary ordinance.
And could we please have a clarity on what the motion is again, one more time?
Move for this. I made a
Attorney
motion.
Palmer, could you please clarify the motion?
The motion.
Okay,
Motion
so-
is pending is to send the first substitute of 121-21 to the full council with an unfavorable recommendation.
With favorable recommendation?
Unfavorable.
I just want to make sure I have it right here. Okay. Okay, there has been a motion. It was seconded to send the first substitute bill 121-21 to the full council with an unfavorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Nay.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Nay.
Councilmember Hammond,
Once again, I cannot deny the hourly workers their increase. Nay.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
6 ayes.
6 ayes and 3 nays.
Yes.
So at this point, we will send the bill to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Unfavorable.
I'm sorry, with an unfavorable recommendation
Josh.
that it has been passed with
Correct.
6 ayes. Okay. Whew, okay, so we are going to now move on to the next bill, number 123-21, as amended in committee. Clerk Jones, will you please give the bill a second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Southend, Indiana, setting the annual salary for the Common Council members for calendar year 2022.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, the substitute bill for 123-21 comes out of the Personnel and Finance Committee with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes. My name is Karen White. I'm currently the president of Southend Common Council. I bring forth this substitute bill as amended in reference to the 2022 salary ordinance for the Common Council, which is set at 2.5% comparative to all non-bargaining employees.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions?
Chair, we need a motion to accept
Oh,
the
a motion,
substitute.
I'm sorry. I am just not with it. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and it's been seconded. Would you please call the roll? Do we need a roll call? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. So now we're going to go to any. Okay, is there any questions on the bill? If not, we're going to go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 123-21?
There is no one from the virtual public that is wishing to speak in favor of this bill.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There is no one from the virtual public wishing to speak in opposition of this bill.
Okay, at this point, the public hearing on Bill 123-21 is now closed. Is there any statements regarding the bill from council members? Councilwoman Hammond?
I do think we need to be careful here, voting on a 2.5% increase for the council when we're toying with zeroing out everybody else's increases for the year. I yield.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Yes, and I think that that's unfair. The council is in control of wages and also their own wages. We had a conversation with the mayor, I don't know, times 5 individually or collectively, even with his department heads, about what was going on with that last bill. We told him multiple times, and his department heads, about those salary increases being erroneous and wrong, ill-fated, wrong-headed. We've said it over and over and over again. That has absolutely nothing to do with the pay increases for the people on this council. We work, and we have been working. We have held, I don't know how many meetings, and we've all been here. The mayor knew better than to continue on with the same type of antics that has caused the problem that we had in the last bill. One doesn't have anything to do with two, and to confuse the community and the public of that is wrong. We asked him, we told him, we pleaded with him. You even asked for a 5% cap, and you still didn't get it. And I really, really find it, unfair that we're going to match that up with the increases or salary increases for the council members. I'm not angry at anyone. I still love you after this. But what I am going to say is that he should have known better, and he should not have done that. So if there's any employee that's unhappy about not having a salary increase, that employee needs to talk to the mayor about that, because we asked him. We tried to play ball with him. We tried to compromise. We said, how about instead of 9%, let's do 5%. Whatever that was, to make sure that the employees got what they deserved. The mayor played hardball. He said, no, I'm going to still do what I do. And as a result, it fell out as a no vote. So for that, again, to be matched up with the people that are on this council that are served, that drive every day back and forth to a constituent's home or to these council chambers or wherever it may be, you deserve your pay increase. You deserve your pay increase. And so one doesn't have anything to do with the two.
I respect your perspective.
Thank you. Is there any other statements from the council members?
I would like to continue off of Councilmember Davis's point. There's still a third reading and vote on Bill 121-21, and whatever happens from that, we'll deal with it. If that does not pass, I do know that all 9 of us are in favor of raises for all city employees of at least 2.5%.
That's right.
And should an ordinance come that would ask for that to continue last year's salary plus an increase of 2.5%, I know it would get at least, or it would get 9 votes. The question is, what about the new positions and increases beyond the 2.5%? That's the issue that we need to deal with, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there at third reading, and then if not at third reading, after that we'll figure it out. But this is, there's nobody that doesn't support 2.5% increases for everybody.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rachel Tomas-Mori, did you have a comment?
No, I just want to add to this conversation and say I take Councilwoman's caution seriously and agree with it, that we're looking at a bill here that gives us, council members here, 2.5% raises, at the same time looking at a salary ordinance representing over 1,000 jobs, and deciding between a 2 or a 2.5 raise. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other council members that wish to make a statement? Councilwoman McBride?
I would. I've been doing budgets as a department head for the county for 12 years. And it's a give and take, it's a compromise, it's talking to one another, it's respecting one another. It's also colleagues having conversations with each other and not administration and not communicating with each other. And I have extended that since I have been on council. And the lack of communication or whatever the problem is, one does not have to do with the other. Unfortunately, and I understand the backlash that because you're going to have the community members looking at it that way if they don't understand the budget. But it's exactly true. I, as far as even today, came back with an amendment request that all the council members and administration and the mayor had received. And I'm not saying my amendment, but there's other amendments and suggestions that have been brought to administration. So being that we did not come to a compromise, this is where we are. So I totally agree that the other salaries, because if you do that, then you say the other ones that comes before us and the unions and the bargaining members and all that stuff would have to suffer because of that. So I totally agree with Councilman Davis.
Thank you. Is there any other members wishing to make a statement?
And for the record, I was one who had told President White that we did not need an increase originally and for the past 2 years. So I just wanted to make that known. So it's not about the money. It's during this negotiation time. That's what we all collectively has agreed upon. So I'm still standing on that.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other statements at this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding Bill 123-21.
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, the bill has been moved and seconded for favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Hammond?
Nay.
Vice President McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
No.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski?
Nay.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Nay.
President White?
Aye.
5 ayes, 4 nays.
4 nays and 5
Yes.
yes. All right, thank you. That bill will be sent to the full council then with a favorable recommendation. Now we're going to move on to the next bill, which is Substitute Bill 124-21. Is that, is it a sub? It is? Yes, it is.
Sub, yes.
Sub. Why are you saying no?
Because I'm mistaken.
Okay, I just want to make sure. And Attorney Palmer, that needs to be read first before we need to look at changing the title of the bill. Is that correct? I want to make sure we have clarity on this because there's a couple of things we have to do we haven't done before.
We need to have a motion to amend the title and also a motion to accept the substitute as written.
So first, I need to,
I make a motion to accept the substitute bill of 2124-21.
Second.
thank you. There has been a motion to accept Substitute Bill 124-21. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll? Can we do a voice?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carried.
I make a motion to amend the title of Bill 124-21 to, in essence, scratch off the other years, 23 and 24. And so the bill would just read an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing the annual pay and monetary fringe benefits of the sworn members of the South Bend Fire Department for calendar year 2022. So in essence, it would just remove 2023 and 2024 from the end of the title of the bill and would be a one-year salary ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. There has been a motion made to change the title of the bill, removing the 2 years, and it has been duly seconded. Now we need to take a roll call, or all in favor of the bill?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So at this time, we'll do a reading of the substitute bill 124-21 as amended
Correct, with the new title.
with the new title.
And Bill 12421, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing the annual salary and monetary fringe benefits of sworn members of the South Bend Fire Department for calendar year 2022.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Chair. This bill comes out of the Personnel and Finance Committee. The substitute bill 124-21 comes out of the Personnel and Finance Committee with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And what about as far as
I am the petitioner as the chair of the Personnel and Finance Committee. I am the petitioner. This is the bill salary ordinance for fire. The negotiations have been going on and unfortunately have stalled out over the last few days. So there was no agreement that resulted from the negotiations. So the committee made a recommendation this afternoon to put forward a salary ordinance for 1 year with a 2.25% increase that would hopefully give the folks some incentive to come back to the table and finish the negotiations and potentially get a 2 or a 3 year agreement.
Okay, thank you. Council members, did you have any questions about the bill?
I just have one question. Based on the substitute bill for the firefighters, that once the action is taken by the council, then that's the end of the negotiations. They will have to come back next year, or will the negotiations continue?
In theory, the negotiations could continue, and the council could amend that ordinance by passing an amended ordinance at a later time. But absent that, absent further action by the council, what they do tonight is what is said. And any change from what it passes tonight would require more action by the council.
So in essence, it could either way if they wanted to go back to the table. And then we would just have to amend the salary ordinance.
So in essence, this gives them the opportunity to truly go back.
This gives them the opportunity to just go back to the table and do the drawing board.
Yes.
And even potentially, if something is worked out in the next couple of weeks, is there time there to get November, potentially, they could have an amended salary ordinance yet this year that would be able to take effect for 2022. But again, the time is ticking.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're very welcome.
Is there any other council members that have any statement, or, that have a question?
I just want to thank you guys for clearing that up. That's, that makes me feel better, knowing that they still can go to the drawing board and still get something done.
Yeah, we need, in essence, we need to get a bill passed by the deadline. This does that, but still there is a window that potentially, if an agreement is made.
Okay. At this time, we're going to go to the public hearing portion of the bill, if council members don't have any more questions. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of the bill?
There is no one from the virtual public expressing interest to speak in favor of this bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Please state your name and address.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. Shame on you. You all, the administration wants 2.5% minimum for paper pushers, and you think 2.25 for firefighters, first responders is a great offer? Shame on you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of the bill?
There is no one from the virtual public. That's, wait a minute.
Oh, I see one.
Yeah, I'm looking to see who
Yeah.
that is.
There is Ryan Takis.
Mr. Tackett, if you would unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Ryan Tegas. I'm Vice President, Local 362, 4025 Lincoln Way West. It's not my intention here to speak against a raise per se, but I just want to kind of give kind of a synopsis and update on these negotiations. And I don't know what you guys all know. You're not a whole lot of you are involved in them, at least in front of us. So I think it's important to get some of this information out there. As far as fire departments go, we're one of the busiest. We are the busiest fire department per capita in the state. We're one of the best fire departments in the country. And we're a model department for any other cities that are the same size as us. As you all know, we've recently attained our ISO Class 1 certification, which a little over 400 departments out of over 40,000 in this country have got. The city likes to use that as a marketing chip on their end and publishes it and puts it out. But when it comes to this stuff, where we're talking about our contract, it doesn't seem to play into that. COVID's been tough for everybody. It was hard for us. We had numerous members off at one time, and we had 30 people off on a shift at one time. And we continually went home. We put our families in danger, while others around the city and around the country got to had the privilege of working from home and kind of keeping themselves safe. Obviously, that's part of our job. We understand that. And it's what we choose to do. But it seems that we've seemed to forget stuff very quickly, how much danger and how much kind of just how hard it was for our families and us to deal with during that time. Listening to this meeting tonight, we're listening to the standard 2.5% raise for all non-bargaining employees. Some people mentioned 2.5% for everybody in the city. Obviously, that's not the case, since we got decided our raise will be 2.25% if we don't come to an agreement here in the coming days, I would assume. To us, to be offered less than what everybody else gets, it's hard to say that's not just a slap in the face. We've made fair offers all throughout this negotiations, as we've continually fallen behind other fire departments in the state and the region who make significantly more and do significantly less. We're 38th in the pay for our state, and we're one of the top busiest fire departments in our state. We weren't asking for the world. We were asking for a fair and competitive wage to be able to recruit, make sure our retention is there, and the ability to remain a top-tier fire department. That ability is going to be compromised if we don't become competitive. We think we proposed a fair deal. That might have put us in the top 10 pay in the state for maybe a year. Like I said, we weren't asking for the world. We were asking for what's fair and what we believe is right. People coming onto our fire department, our firefighters, third class, what they are in for a year when they come out of recruit school, they make $15.47 an hour. You do the math on that. We're trying to recruit and compete. Controller Parker talked about competing and not falling too far behind to be able to attract and retain the members and employees when it comes to other departments in this city. It's no different for us. $15.47 an hour. We can't recruit and attract the best talent available. And we're not going to be able to retain our current membership with the offers that we've received. This is my third negotiation with the city, and this has been by far the most frustrating one yet. We've been told to find existing money to fund our own raises above what was offered from the city. We have done that multiple times and on multiple levels, and we still got turned down. Talking with the controller last week, I thought we had a deal done. Again, with existing money that we found that we were going to use to fund our own raises. And again, that fell through. We would have had a 3-year deal done if that was the case. We're not asking for the world. We're trying to remain on the same equal and level footing as our other public safety entity in the city. And with what's currently proposed, we're going to be well over $5,000 behind them. So I appreciate your time tonight, and hopefully we can get something done here. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I don't see anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of this bill.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. At this point, the public hearing on Substitute Bill 124-21 is now closed. Is there any statements council members wish to make regarding this bill?
I'd like to make just a quick rebuttal, if I may. About
Yes, please. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. In regard to the comment, there were much larger raises on the table that are still on the table in discussions. And then I do agree with Mr. Takis. I've been involved in a lot of labor negotiations. This one has been very frustrating. Unfortunately, most of it has taken part in email, which hasn't helped. And hopefully, Mr. Takis, we can all get in a room and meet face to face. There haven't been enough of those thus far. I think that's been part of the issue, face to face and having discussions. Thank you.
Councilman Lee.
Yeah, I just would like to say, just listening to the comments, I mean, we weren't part of the negotiating process, and so we really don't know all the details of what transpired, but hopefully that our firefighters will get to the place where they can get a deal negotiated. This gives them a little more time, as we've heard tonight. So I think it's very important that they understand that we want to make sure that they're taken care of right. Our first responders are very important, and making sure that, you know, they helped us survive through COVID, and they're the ones who respond. And so I'm hoping that this gives a little more, another lifeline or something, so that things get negotiated and they can get the package that's going to make both sides happy.
Thank you. Councilman Wax.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate, we talked about this in committee. The council's role, or let me rephrase that, the proper process in selecting or setting new salaries for firefighters is not through the council. The proper process is through a negotiated contract negotiation between the firefighters and between the administration. For whatever reason, that didn't happen, and we're here today where it fell into the council's lap to do cleanup. It is my sincere goal and desire that the parties come together and come with a deal that would be better for the firefighters.
Yes.
I hope that happens, and if that comes across, I would be more than happy to come back and revisit this and come to that higher number if that's the negotiated contract. And I look forward to that. But in the meantime, the council is here doing cleanup for the other parties that didn't get it done. And if we wouldn't take extraordinary action of setting the salary, which again, it's really not our role to do. If we wouldn't take this extraordinary action, their salaries would be set at last year's salary. I don't believe anybody in the council wanted that to happen, and that's why we're taking that measure. But we still hope that continued negotiations will take place and a deal that is satisfactory to this fire department will come forward. And I speak for myself, and I think for my colleagues, to say I would wholeheartedly support that.
President White.
Yes, I would like to concur with Councilman Wax. The goal has always been that we would have a contract before us agreeable by both parties. Unfortunately, that has not happened. So the action that will be taken tonight is hopefully to encourage both parties to come back together and to negotiate, and it's about a give and take, and to bring back to this council a bill, a contract that I know that we would support. So I don't want the firefighters to think that the action tonight is the end of the conversations and that we do not support our firefighters, especially those who are on the front line consistently, and especially during COVID as well. So I just support Councilmember Rack's comments.
And if I can add, I was a part of the negotiations and probably lasted most of the meetings, all but 5-10 minutes. So there was really no conversation, but just sitting there and listening to the meetings. And so I also too hope the 2.25% is an incentive for them to get back to the table and talk to one another. Not saying that this would be the case, but if we say the 2.5% increase like all other employees, that may not give one party or the other an incentive to want to negotiate. They'll say that that's what the rest of the city or employees have, and maybe that's sufficient enough. So we are encouraged and hope that they both will get back together to make sure that it's equitable and a great negotiation for everyone.
Thank you. Councilman Davis.
Right. I echo the sentiments of the last council member's thoughts. I totally agree with what Eli said. I want the firefighters to get as much as they deserve. They just won another award that shows their necessity in this community. They're essential workers. We are still in a pandemic. We haven't come out of it. And they are due what they are due. And so I support them in their efforts to get the contract that they deserve.
Thank you. Is there any other comments, Councilwoman Hammond?
I have one question, and I apologize for not knowing this. If we pass this tonight and they go back and renegotiate, we can pass their contract and it will supersede what we have passed tonight?
The council obligation is only to pass the compensation package. So their contract would be divided into separate categories, one of which is the compensation package. The council could always amend this salary ordinance to reflect any agreement that was reached.
Thank you. And secondly, we have two parties involved here. We are incentivizing one to come back to the table to cooperate. I don't see an incentive for the other to do so. I yield.
Is there any other comments? I would just like to say I was on the negotiating team as well with Councilman Warner and Councilwoman McBride. And in previous negotiations, we spent numerous hours in the same room hammering out the issues that were before us. And that did not happen. It was very frustrating. It was a lot of emails, a lot of in a room and out of a room, sometimes within a matter of 10 minutes. So the intent of this is to get them back to the table to talk, to hammer it out. Of course, our fire department is one of the best in the state of Indiana. And of course, they deserve to be compensated. But there's a process for that, negotiation process, and that is between the administration and the fire department. So I hope that those continue, and I hope that the fire department understands and knows that all of us sitting up here value the work that you do in our community every single day. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion regarding the substitute bill 124-21.
Move for passage, or where we're at? I forgot where we are.
Send to the committee.
Send to the committee. We're not even there yet.
We're still in the
I
committee.
want to be there. Move to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there has been a motion made to move to the full council with favorable recommendation, and it's been seconded. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. That will be sent with a favorable recommendation to the full council. We are now going to move on to the next bill, which is also a substitute bill. That was already, so I don't have to have a motion to hear the substitute bill. 126-21. Clerk Jones, could you please give that bill a second reading?
12621, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of the South Bend, Indiana, setting the annual salary for the South Bend City Clerk for calendar year 2022.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
So I make a motion to accept the substitute bill.
Motion to please accept the substitute bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Substitute Bill 126-21 comes out of Personnel and Finance with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilman Warner. Is the petitioner present?
Yes,
Would you?
that is me.
Yes, it is. Clerk Jones, thank you.
The change for this bill to make it a substitute is it went, the salaries will go from asking for a 3% increase to 2.5. That's the only change. Did I say that right?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, the clerk staff, I think it's the clerk, will go, the original one said 3% increase. This one says 2.5.
Is that it? Do you have anything
I'm
else?
sorry, no, that's it.
Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't have anything else to say.
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Council members, do you have any questions of Clerk Jones? No? Okay. Then at this time, we're going to go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Substitute Bill 12621?
There is no one from the virtual public that is expressing interest to speak in favor of this bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There is no one from the virtual public wishing to speak in opposition.
And if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Jason Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. This is kind of where we get in trouble when we say 2.5% across the board raises constantly and continuously. Last year we gave pretty large raises to the clerk's office to the point now where our chief deputy clerk makes more than the clerk of a much larger city in Evansville, Indiana. And instead of saying, hey, you got these large raises last year when most of the city didn't get raises because of the pandemic, now they're here asking for another 2.5, initially 3, which was more than the 2% initially most city employees were. So I think it's time to, again, while there are a lot of times where, just 2.5% across the board is great, sometimes you have to look deeper and say, we gave you a much larger last year, this year you have to go without. So we got to take those things into consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Would you like to rebuttal that, Clerk Jones?
Yes. Last year, the clerk, myself, I didn't take a raise as well as the other elected officials. And that was the cap that was raised, not the actual salary. So we're just asking for the cap so that next year we don't have to continue to do this dance. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, at this point, the public hearing on this bill, Substitute Bill 126-21, is now closed. Council members, do you wish to make any restatements regarding the bill? Seeing none, I'll now entertain a motion regarding substitute bill 121 or 126-21.
I move this goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. It's been, the motion has been made and duly seconded. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wax? Aye. Councilmember Nisgowsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis? Aye. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner? Aye. President White?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. That will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. We are going to move on to the next bill, which is a substitute bill 127-21. Do I have a motion to hear the substitute bill?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk Jones, will you please give the substitute bill 127-21 a second reading?
Yes. 12721, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, maximum salaries and wages of deputies and non-bargaining employees appointed by the city clerk of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2022.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yeah, substitute bill 127-21 comes out of Personnel and Finance Committee with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Clerk Jones?
This is similar, if not the same, as the previous one. The previous bill was for my salary. This one is for the salary of the staff, and as stated before, it is for the cap to be increased, not the actual salaries.
Is that your?
That's it. I think I said that right.
Clerk, okay. That's what I got a question.
Council members, President White, you have a question?
Clerk Jones, I want to make sure I have clarity. You're saying that the 2.5% is to raise the cap, or is it 2.5% base that you would like to give to your staff for salaries?
I think I need to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I didn't think that that was the intent of the.
Right. It raises the cap, but it also raises the salary as well. So the 2.5% will go to raise the cap as well as the salary of the staff of the clerk.
Okay. Is there any other questions from council? Anyone on this side, any questions for council? No? Okay, at this point, then we're going to go to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of substitute bill 127-21?
There is no one from the virtual public that has expressed an interest to speak in favor of this bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the substitute bill 127-21?
There is no one from the virtual public wishing to speak in opposition of this bill.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. And at this point, the public hearing on this bill is now closed. Council member, do you wish to make any statements regarding this bill? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion regarding the bill. Is there any motions on substitute bill 127-21?
I make a motion to send 127-21 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. There's been a favorable recommendation, or to send with a favorable recommendation and seconded. Clerk Jones, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky?
Aye.
President White?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. The bill will be sent to the full council with the favorable recommendation. I'll now entertain a motion to rise from the committee of the whole and report back to the full council.
So moved. Second.
It's been duly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, none? Motion carries.
The full council is back in session. This is where bills that were heard during the committee of the whole would be given a third reading. Bill 121-2021 has been accepted as a sub during the Committee of the Whole. Clerk Jones, will you please give substitute Bill 121-21 a third reading?
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of executive departments of the City of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2022.
Councilwoman,
I'd like to move Bill 121-21 to amend the ordinance to amend the ordinance to pass a 2.5 raise or 32,000 minimum, whichever one is less. So I'm essentially just trying to give the workers their raise.
okay.
A second?
Okay, well, first I haven't asked for a recommendation, then I'll get to the motion. So I'll definitely circle back, okay? And I know there's an appetite. I know Councilmember Wax would like to add to that as well. Councilwoman Sheila Niskoski, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole regarding substitute Bill 121-21?
Yes, it was sent to the full council with an unfavorable recommendation.
Okay. Now, council members, I do know that if you'd like to make any comments or any suggestions at this point, I would go to Councilmember Davis and then circle back to Councilmember Eli Wax.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
I missed that. What did you just say? I heard everything you said, but that plane didn't land.
Okay, well, I was saying I was going back to you for your,
Okay.
then I was going to come back to Councilmember Wax.
It happens. I'm 42 now. I'd like to make a motion to amend the ordinance to pass the 2.5% raise or the 32,000 minimum, whichever is less.
Can I ask for clarity on that?
Hey, we can go back and forth because I know you want the salary to be raised as well. So
I do. So is that off of taking 2021 salary ordinance and then adding 2.5 to that for 2022?
yes,
Okay, perfect.
got
With
it.
the 32,000 minimum.
we got it.
Okay,
Yeah, we got it.
sounds good to me.
So we have a motion to amend the salary ordinance, and it has been seconded. Are there any questions?
I'm not sure that I understand the motion.
Okay, the motion,
The
Councilmember,
motion is to ensure that the workers that seemingly didn't get anything from the last time we voted during second reading, their 2.5% raise across the board with the $32,000 being the minimum, whichever one is less. So we're giving them what they're due. What everyone else has gotten as well, even the council.
So could I just ask,
Go ahead.
just to further clarify, that is what the first substitute bill says? It goes from a 2% to a 2.5% standard increase.
But then there's,
Yeah,
Is that
we're
what you're-
striking off the other raises that were, abnormally high.
That wasn't mentioned.
That, you didn't mention that in your motion.
that's what I clarified. It
That's
would be
what-
the
But I didn't have
2021.
to.
wait just a minute.
Go ahead.
That was what I was clarifying, is that it was the 2021 salary ordinance plus 2.5% on all those salaries. So any new positions or anything, any restructuring, retitling, any of that would not be in it. It would be 2021's final one, which the council passed last year, plus 2.5% on all those positions.
Okay, thank you. I just think it's really important for the public to understand that clearly, and all of us on council.
So there's a motion, it has been seconded.
Can I ask another clarifying? That's all salaried positions and department heads as well at the 2.5?
Salaries.
Every salary. Okay, thank you.
We got Warner. Okay, I'm sorry, Councilmember Warner?
I don't understand what the difference is between between the bill and the motion, I guess.
Can I take that?
Yes, you can.
There's, I believe, 34 positions that are either new or are increased or changed or retitled from previous salary ordinance. So from 2021 to 2022,
Okay.
a whole slew of new positions, and there's a bunch of positions that have higher than the 2.5% increases. So this would, again, take whatever we approved for this current year and increase those salaries.
Okay, so there's folks that were discussed earlier and we've now discussed them probably 4 times, that are taking on additional roles that are in those, so that would be, they would not be getting the raises that were proposed for taking on additional roles. I believe the Turn is now taking on the largest raise at, I believe, 18%. 21%. So that person will not get the raise and not go full-time now. Is that what we're saying?
Under the motion on the floor now, yes. I can't speak for anybody else, but I would be happy on an individual basis to go back and reconsider any other positions.
What about new positions that?
Well, you don't get to have that discussion.
Okay,
The
excuse
motion
me.
was made.
Councilmember
and you got a
Davis,
second.
Councilmember Davis, they're
But you
trying
don't
to get.
you don't get opportunity to go back through the positions and then question each one. The motion was made, you got a second, and so you call the roll.
You could debate a question on the
You can
floor.
debate
No.
a question, Gil, you can.
So, and then there's quite a numerous positions that are listed at 100% because they didn't exist last year. So yours would strike no more new positions. Is that correct?
Yes.
There would be no more new ones. I would, though, I am realizing now that there are a couple of positions that the council has approved. My apologies. There are a couple of positions that the council has approved over the course of this past year. So I would.
So that would include the CRB, I believe would be one of those positions.
Under the motion on the floor.
So the motion on the floor would not fund the position for the director of the Community Police Review Board.
I think under the language of the current motion.
Okay.
Bob, can you help us out, please?
He doesn't want to.
As I understand the motion, it's exactly as Councilman Wax has tried to explain, that any position that existed in last year's salary ordinance would have a 2.5% increase or a minimum of $32,000. If there is no position in last year's salary ordinance, there would be no increase and no salary whatsoever.
Can I offer, ask you to, or would you consider withdrawing your motion and changing it to include any positions that the council has approved over the course of this past year?
Withdraw. I'm withdrawing my motion.
Are you
You
making?
can restate it, man.
I will
We
make a
make it right.
motion to amend the current 121.21, I think we're on the first substitution, to amend that to provide a 2.5% salary increase on all salaries that have been approved in the 2021 salary ordinance and any positions that the council has approved over the course of this past year.
Can we add historical preservation, going from part-time to full?
I would even do that. And
Sweet.
historical preservation.
Thank you.
To make that full-time, whatever the appropriate.
Everybody's happy?
Yes.
Second?
We have a motion and has been seconded. All council members who are in favor of the motion might hear your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
So it's,
We need a roll.
We
probably need to do roll call.
we need a
Clerk
roll
Jones,
call.
will you please do the roll? Call the roll.
Vice President McBride,
I want to do another motion. No, nay.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee, Councilmember Warner,
No.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Nay.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Nay.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
5 ayes. 4 nays.
So now I would like to entertain a motion to accept the substitute Bill 121 as amended.
So move.
Second.
Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Point of, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
We voted
Point
on
of
the
order.
motion, but now we got to go back and vote on the actual bill
So this
as
is,
amended. Right? Am I correct, Doc?
The motion that was made was to accept the substitute as it was amended. That was not a motion to pass the bill.
That's right.
so
This is simply a motion to accept the amendment itself.
And then we go back to passage. You got
So
to-
that, so then, in terms of point of order, we can have another round of discussion.
When do I make a motion for the 5% is all I'm asking. When does that happen?
That would be now, before we pass.
Well, let's,
You've already done that. That's what the part of
Council-
the amendment that we're
Yeah.
we'll talk about that then.
But,
You missed that part.
okay. Council, I'm going to ask our attorney for clarity. I don't want to get into the same position that we were in previously. So, Attorney Palmer, the bill has been accepted as a sub. Amendment was made and it was second, and council members voted on that.
They voted to accept the amendment. The motion now that would be ripe for passage is a motion for passage of the substitute bill as amended.
point of order.
Yes,
Could another motion to amend be made?
Yeah,
yes.
Yes, again.
that's what I was thinking. That's what I'm waiting on. I just need to know when that point is.
The point is.
Is it now?
It is now,
Okay.
and this is very interesting. Okay.
I want to make a motion that we cap at 5% for all employees, or 32,000, whichever is less, plus the addition of the new positions that we approve, plus historical preservation. So instead of, the only difference is from 2.5% to 5%.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second before we go to discussion?
I have a
we get
point of
clarity
order.
on who is receiving the 5%, please?
All of the same thing, the same,
Wait,
the same ordinance from 2021, all employees for 2022 would get a 5% increase. So it's the same motion that was just made, but I am suggesting the 5%, which I emailed, well, everyone got a copy of my amendment asking for a 5% increase, or the $32,000 cap that was sent out earlier this evening to everyone from Bob on behalf of me and President White.
so we have that motion, and I want to make sure, was that motion seconded?
This is all employees
All
at a
in-
5%.
The motion is all employees are getting a 5% raise.
Yes, the
that's-
cap, instead of 2.5%, 5%, capped at the $32,000 or whichever is less. So it's the same motion that we just said, adding the positions that council already improved and the historical preservation. So it's emulating the same motion, but instead of 2.5%, I'm suggesting 5%.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'm sorry, I'm still confused. This includes hourly, 5% for hourly workers.
All workers except for the bargaining agreement employees. That's something separate. So
That's-
all
1,000 employees are getting
the,
1,000.
I said the
getting 5%.
same positions that we just talked about. For all of those positions we talked about, it's the same motion but except for 2.5%, it's 5%. We just voted on it. The same thing.
That's point of order, that by state law, we can't increase what's said by the executive. If I'm understanding, you're saying that we're giving everybody a 5% raise, is that?
What I'm saying is I sent everyone an email and administration before tonight's meeting asking for them to consider the amendment. Being that the amendment did not consider, the bill died. But now that it came back on third reading and council is having discussion to increase up to 2.5%, I was seeing if it could be. If not, vote it down and say no, and let's move on.
It's against state statute,
Well,
state law.
okay.
We can't increase, we can reduce salaries, or we can, but we can't increase what is set by the mayor.
That's correct.
So there's when I was hoping for a response and never got the response. Thank you.
So that at this point, we have a motion and action has been taken on that motion. I'll now go to entertain a motion regarding substitute bill 121-21 as amended.
Move for passage.
Second.
Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Point of order, President White, so do we have a discussion or statement?
No, when we get to this point.
Because once we get to, I mean, if we're passing the bill.
We don't have discussion. We go.
The discussion was on the amendment itself.
Yeah.
So no further statements?
The statements are made in the committee of the whole. The personal statements that council members
Correct.
would like to
Once
make.
there's been a call for the vote goes on.
Yeah. And we've never done it. I mean, since I've been in the seat, once we get to, at this point,
Well, that's
a
Robert's
motion is
rules.
made, and then we move.
We ready?
Ready? Okay. Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
No.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski,
Nay.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Nay.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
6 ayes, 3 nays.
Substitute Bill 121-21 has passed. Clerk Jones, will you please give third reading to Bill 123-21?
12321, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, setting the annual salary for the Common Council members for calendar year 2022.
This bill was accepted as a sub during the Committee of the Whole. At this time, Councilwoman Niskoski, is there a recommendation for Bill 123, substitute Bill 123-21?
Yes, President White. That bill 12321 was sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I would now like to entertain a motion regarding Bill 123-21.
Move for passage.
Second.
We have a motion and has been seconded. Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
No.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski,
Nay.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Nay.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Will you please give third reading to Bill 124-21?
12421, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing the annual pay and monetary fringe benefits of sworn members of the South Bend Fire Department for calendar year 2022.
I believe that this is a sub, and it was accepted during the Committee of the Whole. At this time, Councilwoman Niskoski, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole regarding Substitute Bill 124-21?
Yes, President White. The bill was sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will entertain a motion regarding Substitute Bill 124-21.
Move for passage.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Substitute Bill 124-21 has passed. Clerk Jones, will you please give third reading to Bill 126-21?
12621, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, setting the annual salary for the South Bend City Clerk for calendar year 2022.
This bill has also been accepted as a sub. Councilwoman Niskoski, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Yes, President White. That was sent to the committee, to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Substitute Bill 126 dash, no, 124 dash, 126, I'm sorry, 126 dash 21.
Move for passage.
Second.
Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
Councilmember Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Substitute Bill 126-21 has passed. Clerk Jones, will you please give third reading to Bill 127-21?
12721, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, fixing maximum salaries and wages of deputies and non-bargaining employees appointed by the City Clerk of South Bend, Indiana for the calendar year 2022.
This bill was also accepted as a sub during the Committee of the Whole. At this time, Councilwoman Niskoski, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole regarding Substitute Bill 126-21?
Yes, President White. Bill 127-21 was sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I now entertain a motion regarding Substitute Bill 127-21.
Move for passage.
Second.
Clerk Jones, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Niskoski,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond,
Aye.
Vice President McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wax,
Aye.
President White.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Substitute Bill 127-21 has passed. There are no resolutions, and we will go directly to Bill's first reading. Clerk Jones, will you please give Bill 129-21 a first reading?
12921, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 602 East Dayton, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 129-21 to the South Bend Planning Commission set for November 15 and sent to the Zoning and Annexation Committee and public hearing for November the 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. I don't believe we have to do the roll call at this time. All council members who are in favor of the motion, may I hear your vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. We'll now move to unfinished business. I would like to turn this portion over to our attorney who will give information about this particular item and also the motion that will be forthcoming.
Thank you, President White. There's been an appeal of the Historic Preservation Commission's denial of a certificate please forgive me, it's a COA number 2021-0810. The appeal is being brought by Westminster Holdings, and the purpose of this agenda item tonight is to set the briefing schedule for the appeal that comes before the council. And I believe Councilman Wax is going to make that motion.
And again, this motion just, my understanding is that this is, the appeals come directly to the council. There's just some process before, so it's setting the deadlines for all that process. So I move to establish the following deadlines and hearing date on the appeal of the denial of the Certificate of Appropriateness, COA number 2021-0810, in an appeal entitled Westminster Holdings, LLC versus Historic Preservation Commission. Monday, November 1st, 2021, be established as the deadline for submission by the Historic Preservation Commission to file a certified copy of the minutes, transcript, if any, and all documents of record regarding action taken by the staff and commission on COA application number 2021-0810. Wednesday, November 10, 2021, be established as a deadline for receipt by the city clerk's office of any submission by the petitioners or their attorney of evidentiary and administrative record and position statement, which shall include an introduction, standard of review, issues, facts, argument or contentions, and any exhibits. This submission must be made to the office of the city clerk and opposing counsel representing the Historic Preservation Commission. Wednesday, November 17, 2021, be established as the deadline for receipt by the city clerk's office of any submission by the Historic Preservation Commission or by the legal counsel representing the commission of the evidentiary and administrative record and position statements, which shall include an introduction, standard of review, issues, facts, arguments, or contentions, and any exhibits. The submission must be made to the office of the city clerk and petitioners or opposing counsel representing the petitioners. Monday, November 22, 2021, is the date on which the South Bend Common Council, at its regular 7 p.m. meeting under agenda item unfinished business, shall hear the appeal involving COA number 2021-0810, in an appeal entitled Westminster Holdings, LLC versus Historic Preservation Commission, which shall be conducted pursuant to a 2-page document entitled Procedures Governing Appeals of Historic Preservation Commission to the Common Council, on file with the office of the city clerk and sent by that office to all parties of record.
For the council's benefit, these deadlines were agreed to by the parties to the appeal in advance of tonight's hearing.
Attorney Palmer, do we have to have an official motion?
That was the motion.
Okay,
That
that's
was the motion.
Well, that was probably the longest motion I have ever heard. Okay. We have a motion.
I didn't come up with it myself.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. I can do roll call.
You do not need a roll call.
Okay. All council members who are in support of the motion regarding this particular Historical Preservation Commission appeal, may I hear your vote by saying aye? Aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Is there any new business? Seeing none, we'll go to the privilege of the floor. Individuals who wish to address the council must state their names and residential address. Individuals will be limited to 3 minutes only. The maximum time limit for this portion of the meeting shall be 30 minutes. And you would speak to any items that was not discussed on the agenda. State your name and address, please.
Jason Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. So last time we talked about, you guys approved a lot of allocating of ARP dollars. And there was a lot of talk about the digital divide, and, the Innovation and Technology Office was talking about adding one more hotspot, to the west side to fix, I don't know, maybe 100 feet of that divide. And it got me thinking, and it got me doing a little research. And the cost to run 1 mile of fiber optic cable is $10,000. We're spending $11 million on the Dream Center, so one community center that maybe 1,000 people will get to use access to. For that same $11 million, we could run 1,100 miles of fiber optic cable. So much like the city ran the fiber optic cable downtown that now powers that high-speed data network, we could run fiber optic cable over the entire west side of South Bend and fix the digital divide for the city. Not for a day, not for a week, for generations. So I think, even though the money's allocated, there's still time to go back and look at where it's being spent and look at the intent to create true generational transformation. And that comes from unleashing the power of our people. That all comes from unleashing the power of the internet and technology in their homes, not having to pray that they have enough internet access to even be able to do the minimum. So let's take a look at those dollars still. Just because we approved it doesn't mean they're spent yet, and doesn't mean we can't reallocate it. And I just thought that was a very interesting process and a very interesting idea to help fix a problem that is going to be longstanding and the private market will never address on that side of town.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing?
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. I just have to say that I took my little to Cops and Goblins tonight. It was amazing. We froze our butts off, but it was a blast. I am thrilled that the city supports that. Last time I was here, I talked about I did the police academy, and I was very remiss because there is a gentleman in this room who is part of the instructors. So, Joe, would you please stand up? He spends Tuesday evening working with the Citizens Academy. Thank you.
Isaac Hunt, 138 East Broadway. I'm really disturbed because it seems that some council members are working for the mayor instead of for the citizens. And it bothers me because how can the mayor ask for a 10 to 12% raise, but our firefighters can't get a 2.5% raise? And we know we got the best fire department in the world. But if any of your houses catch on fire, who you calling? You not calling the mayor. We need to, y'all need to understand who y'all work for. You work for the citizens of this community. And the money that's being spent in this community is not being allocated fairly across the board. It's not the mayor's money. It's not your money. We all pay taxes for this. And people need to understand, elections will come back around. And we will be taking notes. Because it's not fair to the residents and the hardworking independent individuals that's not salaried not to be taken care of, but you want 12 to 13%, 21% raises, whatever it is, for salaried individuals in the administrator's office. What about our young people that's out here that need some assistance? Where's that money going? Where's the focus at? You don't work for the mayor. You work for us. Thank you.
Well, my name is Pastor Lionel Hudson, pastor of the Greater New Jerusalem Baptist Church in South Bend, Indiana. My address is 507 East South Street. First of all, I'd just like to say thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak to all the council members. I want to petition the council on behalf of not only our church, but on behalf of the city, because we're in the process of, we bought some property on 215 North Johnson Street. It was burned intentionally 2 days before we could sign on it. So we are trying to, we still end up getting the property, and we're trying to put it back up. The reason why we need help is not just for us to have a church building. It's for something to do in the community. We do a lot of work in this community. I mean, anybody that knows me know I have a heart for the people. We got too much violence going on in our streets. We've been trying to get some help from the city. We tried to get help from, even when under Mayor Buttigieg's administration. We never got any help. We still don't get help. What I want to tell you today is you can come and see what we do. I mean, in this community. We have a mission to get these young people off the street, bring them in, teach them love and respect, get them, and it's beginning to happen. We have begun to get them. That's why we had to get them a larger building. They're coming in. They're coming in now. And if you follow us, and you'll see what we do. So we need some help to get that building restored. It was a pillar to this community when they burned that building down. A lot of us came out of that church. A lot of our children came out of that church. I have church members here with me now. We're very concerned about this community. And I'm not off into the politics and stuff, to be honest with you. I'm there when it's time to be there. But my concern and my heart is with the people in this community, with our community, trying to stop some of this gun violence. And me being a person that came from these streets, I haven't been a preacher all my days. I came from these streets. And I know for a fact, all these meetings, all this stuff we're having in these, I go to some of the meetings, but I don't go to all the meetings because I know that's not the answer. We talk about a lot of stuff, and 15 years later, we're still in the same position.
30 seconds, sir.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to petition you to help us in that area to get the building restored. And if you can find anything to help us, we invite you to come and see what we do. As a matter of fact, before I leave, our next project is downtown in Monroe in Michigan. The city has given us permission to use that lot. We'll be down there feeding the homeless. We'll be down there passing out food to the needy. That's what we do. And if somebody would, all we are asking is for some help. And if we can't get it this way, we'll find a way. God's going to make a way anyway. I know this. He will supply what we need. So
Time, sir.
We petition you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Larissa Chisholm-Buggs. I'm representing the Nexus Center at 3607 South Main Street on the south side of South Bend. I'm going to try to be succinct and speak quickly. I have a lot to say. This has been quite a process. I will say that. Wow. But as to me, the overall theme tonight was about equity and access, parity, if you will. And our project is about that. And I just come before you to keep it fresh on your minds, to think about us as you're thinking about other things that are going on in the city. Many of you have been out to our property. Some of you haven't. For those of you who haven't, certainly you're welcome, citizens as well of the community, because our enterprise is for the people. It has 5 pillars, and those include financial literacy, economic development, there's education, family wellness, family health and wellness, and crime prevention. I think I covered all 5. Forgive me if I didn't. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. But in that, one of the major foci of our project right now is establishing access to health care, mental health care. I'm a psychiatrist, a medical doctor. I'm board certified in adult psychiatry as well as forensic psychiatry. And the goal is to do something different in the city, to address all of those pillars, ultimately also addressing crime prevention, because if you make people well, people do better. And so this is not a recapitulation of other services in the community. Other entities do a wonderful job, but as an African-American psychiatrist, I also know that there is issue of access and parity. And generally in COVID, African-Americans have been affected much more predominantly than other groups. COVID has also highlighted social determinants of health. We always knew they existed, but some issues have been made more paramount. African Americans, by and large, do not seek out mental health care treatment, even though trauma in this country has been predominantly affecting our community, and no offense to any other groups. But as an African American psychiatrist, certainly that is my focus. The Nexus Center is not just for African Americans, it is for all people. And I just want to keep that on your mind as we're talking about issues of access and parity tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David Buggs. That was my lovely wife, Dr. Larissa Chisholm-Buggs, and 3607 South Main Street, Nexus Center. I kind of wish that the camera was still rolling. It's gone now. I think people need to hear what we're saying at this portion of the meeting as well. I would like to thank everyone for taken an interest in what we're doing at the Nexus Center. That's all I can ask you to do, is take an interest. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I like to quote people who are smarter than me. And Albert Einstein said, you've heard this so many times, you do the same thing looking for different results. That's the definition of insanity. But he also said, in the midst of difficulty lies opportunity. Issue for right now to save our population. Factories closed down, women went to work, everybody went to make Army things. I mean, focus went towards that effort to correct that effort. And from that, we became the greatest country in the world. We're still the greatest country in the world, but we have some giants that we have to defeat. I'm asking you to remember us. I don't think I'm going to come back before you for a while. Sometimes when God gives a person a job to do, it lays on the shoulder of the individual. I've told you all our hopes and our dreams, for not just for African Americans, but South Bend in general. Now, it's time for me to get to work in a different way. We're going to actualize the Nexus Center. We're going to find the ways to get it done. And it's going to be a beacon in South Bend, not just in South Bend, but across the state, the city. I know my time is short, but people die and are dying because we've been put into a box where we've had to figure out how to make our own way. And when you get into a box to try to figure out to make your own way, you make mistakes.
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. So what we need to do is to create a bigger box that will encompass this box that we have here. Endow it with character, with opportunity, with individuals who have a heart that's greater than laws can be amended, laws can change. What we need to do is let our heart dictate our actions. That's all I have to say. My wife is great at what she does. She is going to be wonderful at what we put together. I hope you all can support us. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda Hunt. I'm here representing Wellbeing TLC. I started my company last year, and October 18th, I made a year. I have tried to get SBA loans. I have went to different boot camps, and I went to St. Mary's for all the different programs to help entrepreneurs in the city of South Bend. I'm born and raised here. I love my seniors, so I started my own business to help the seniors. And during COVID, I was able to help take care of family members that people couldn't see unless they visited through a window. And so when I asked for the SBA loan, I did it so I could get a larger staff to help our seniors, because it's important that our seniors are cared for in a loving manner. And a lot of our seniors died last year because they didn't have family to come and see them. And so I have a problem, because every time I go to try to get help to make the business grow, and so that I could work on my business more instead of working in the business, I'm not getting any help. So I came tonight because as a minority-owned business, and because there's loans out there for minority-owned businesses, I think that our council needs to do a little bit more to help the community. I mean, it doesn't solely land on all of you, but I had to do everything everything that I've done over the last year for my business, I done. And when I came to my city to help, as a citizen, as a lifelong citizen, I've been here, I was born in Memorial Hospital. I think that I should have been able to have some kind of assistance. And I think that we should really look at the people who are living here and trying to better our community and get on board to help them more. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Those wishing to speak, could you please take the seats in the first row? Thank you so much.
Hi, the name is Marie Woods. I attended a conference on October the 16th this year, and kind of speaking from the young lady just left, I'm just concerned what's going on with small business loan company, the small business that's downtown, and grants and everything. And I know that I found out there is money available in this city, and I just want to know why we always get this negative response that, well, you need to go back and you need to redo your small business plan that you made, or Lord have mercy, if I ask for a grant, it's like I spoke the wrong language. You can't get any help. And it's like her, I've been to small conferences and everything, and we need to do something about the city. I'm saying it's money here, and I just want to know, where's it going if it's not helping us out? I pay taxes. I'm retired. I need to go back to work just to make my business work. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an event planner, and I was wanting to slash venue hall for those that can't afford these big Holiday Inn functions that they have, or repasts or whatever. And I just want to know, what is the problem, why you can't get help? And like I said, I went to SBA, and I'm going to call the name, Alan Steele. Every time I go somewhere, they want to give me his name. I do not want to deal with Alan, but we need help. Thank you.
My name is Hardy Blake, and I'm the pastor of the Ardmore LaSalle Church of Christ, and I live at 144 North Summit. And I want to speak on behalf of the Nexus Center also, because I've worked in the community for over 40 years, and we have a group called Men of Scars that really does work with crime. And also we have a program called Transformation Park, which is actually to have a 24/7 outreach to the community, working with transformation rather than just transforming a few things. We're talking about transforming a complete family community. But the Nexus Center, I'm going to say this because I didn't plan to get up here, but the way that we have worked in the past, we've had piecemeal, and we couldn't get things done. But when I work with ex-offenders, we could do one thing for 3 or 4 weeks or a month or two, and then release them out of the program, and it's not enough to transform their lives. People have been conformed for a long time. Yeah. Transformation is a process, not a program, and it takes a lot more time. The Nexus Center, I think, is a tremendous opportunity, especially for the African American community, because Nexus means to link or to collaborate, to bring pieces together. And we've got a lot of broken pieces in our community. And I think that David Buggs and his wife have invested a considerable amount into the Nexus Center. And I think it has tremendous opportunities, because I visited there twice and I brought a number of people. My congregation and many other people that I've talked to are very excited about it. And I think that the city should give as much support as it possibly can, financially and every other way that it can. It should give it because it's transformational and it will help build the African American community. And I'm focusing on that because I'm African American, for one, but because that's where the greatest need is within our community. All of the violence and all of the crime and all of the other things that are happening. We need so much more investment, and we need the city to invest in a maximum way rather than in a minimum, where it sits and just does little dribbles until the pain that sometimes crimes and drugs and violence, and it causes a little bit of pain, and the city wants to do something to take away the pain. Well, we need more than pain removal.
30
we
seconds,
need life
sir.
transformation. We need community transformation. We need family transformation. There's so many things that we need, and I think the Nexus Center is a place that can really begin to transform. And so I want to encourage the city to really step up and not back up and not put it on the same little Mickey Mouse format that it's done in the past. We've got to get off of the Mickey Mouse mess, and we've got to get real about our community. And I'm not just saying that the city needs to do it by itself, but when the city can invest money in Notre Dame. I used to be on the redevelopment commission.
Time, sir.
No, I'm sorry, man. But I can have your time. Who can give me some time? No, I know.
It's nice for sharing, but you can't do that. Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under privilege of the floor? State your name and address, please.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Rosemarie Harris. My address is 18240 Brightlingsea Place, South Bend, Indiana. And I share the concerns of Yolanda, and I think her name was Mrs. Woods. I started an organization in March of 2020. I have an office that's located at 914 Lincoln Way West, which is Colfax Cultural Center. I signed my lease in March of 2020, and then COVID came. So for the first year up to now, I have been paying my rent, I have been paying for my internet service and so on. I have applied on numerous occasions for grants with the city of South Bend, and I have received nothing. So I understand exactly where Yolanda and Ms. Woods, exactly where they're coming from. And I have the same question: where is the money going, if not to people like us? Thank you very much.
I didn't come here to speak, but I think I will. Gladys Muhammad, 808 North Ironwood. I came here to say that I support the Nexus Center. I've been waiting for some of us, one of us black folks, to get up and help us do something for ourselves. And we do pay taxes. And I think it's about time some of that COVID money, or whatever you want to call it, need to go into our community and help us. I really don't know any black psychiatrists in South Bend, but I know a whole bunch of black children that need one. A lot of times we say we just go to Oakland, we just go there, and we stay in the same shape 5 years. I support the Nexus Center, and I hope that the city of South Bend, the council, and the administration can put some of that money into that center. Mr. Buggs put a lot of money into that center himself out of his own pocket. And I think we ought to try to match that money and do it. I grew up in the 60s with the Black Panthers, with Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, and James Brown. And he said, open up the door, we'll get it ourselves. So if you don't do it, we're going to do it anyway. And I also support this Mr. Benicki who got up here and said, we need the internet on the west side of South Bend. When the South Bend Community School Corporation and when the COVID was going on, they had those buses all over that community and the kids could get the internet. Now the buses are not there and they do not have the internet. And we ought to be ashamed of ourselves, not having the internet on the west side of South Bend. I know grown people don't have the internet in their houses. Their kids can't use it. The library is going out there in Brown Middle School. They can't even get to the library. Thank God we're going to get the library downtown back soon. But help David Buggs with the Nexus Center and put that internet on the west side of South Bend. And like I said, open up the door. We're going to get it ourselves. Thank you.
Graylin Watson, 3303 East Jefferson. I'm not here asking you for none of your money because my father is rich. I support the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I've been sitting in here, I hear y'all talking about all this money, but you see here where this money could go. You see right here. But when you talking about budget and money, you're not talking about our community. You're not talking about men and women of God that's doing things in the community, that's trying to help our people. But if I could leave you with one thing, Jesus says 5 in one house gonna be divided. 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. Well, I want to tell you, all of you, God is watching every one of you, and he knows those who are his.
Last call for privilege of the floor. Attorney Plummer, are we at the 30 minutes?
We have one more online.
Okay. Clerk Jones, will you please bring them in?
I'm trying to check to see.
Then this will be the last speaker.
Okay, we have Lisa DeBerry. Lisa, if you would unmute yourself and state your name and your address for the record, please. Lisa? She's muted. That is the only one that I see.
Lisa, you're still muted.
Clerk Jones, is there any way we can put something in the chat?
I can put in the chat that she's muted.
That she's muted. And if not, we can reach out to her and ask her to send, email us her comments. At least we have them for the record.
Okay. She says she cannot unmute.
Okay.
So I will tell her to
Please
contact.
have her, Mrs. DeBerry.
Wait a minute.
Have you unmuted her? Maybe something on her end,
See
I
if
don't
you
know.
can- Yeah, see if you can talk, Lisa. We unmuted you from this end. We unmuted you here. She probably still is trying to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it was saying that you guys had to unmute me. A presenter had to unmute me. This is Lisa DeBerry. My address is 1618 Florence Avenue. I wanted to speak on behalf of the African American child care providers inside of the community and bring some light to the bill 118-21 that was approved by the council. And last week there was a meeting um, with all of the African American child care providers that had attended, and some of the comments that were said that they felt unappreciated, unrepresented, and excluded from city decisions due to the fact that United Way had received $2 million. And these are businesses that have been in the community for decades and generations. And when they asked, can they receive funds from the city out of the ARP dollars that were dedicated to small businesses, minority businesses, and for executive branch as well, that they had not received anything, although they had met with council members several times, and that had been passed through. Hello? Oh, I'm sorry, sir, I'm muted. I just wanted to bring to the light that child care providers do help reduce violence by the eloquent relationships that they build with children in the communities that they do serve. So the existing African American child care providers are important in our community. It's also to my understanding that when that bill was passed, $55 million was pulled. $10,100,000 is going to the Dream Center, and $45 million is still on the table and up for discussion. And I also know that the executive branch is preparing to repropose a budget for that $45 million. And I was hoping that the council would give a considerable and fair consideration to the Black child care providers in the community, and represent the people that were elected them into office when the child care providers come to them and ask them for funds that to be allocated to them of the ARP dollars.
Thank you. At this time, seeing that there's no other individuals wanting to speak on the privilege of the floor, this meeting stands adjourned.
But they've already said we're.
We put you right here.
Thanks, Sally. We need to talk in the morning. Pardon me? Oh, is he? Okay. Thanks. Oh, I will too. I will too. I'm happy to do so too. I'm happy to do so too. No comment. No comment.
Procedural, just understand. So like say Mueller tomorrow morning vetoes this, the bill. It's
Okay, okay, sure will. You can look at me, I'm on this one.
So then it just becomes, goes down to statement on the first, and all those plans that you know.
Okay, okay, you're doing fine. You're doing fine, you're doing fine. Oh, no, you have not missed anything, I'm doing fine. Okay.
Vetoes it and comes back with a substitute bill and somehow gets the council